I got bad news if you are an American, and because the petrodollar is going away, which means that the United States dollar, which is the reserve currency of the world, is probably going to go away. What does that mean? That means our bad news for our economy, like really bad news, and they're doing it on purpose. Like, what if you would think the president of the United States would want to keep the petrodollar going, but what they're doing everything to break up that relationship. What is the petrodollar? The petrodollar is Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of oil in the world. So we made a deal with them back in the 70s that said you can use our military anywhere you want in the world, but what we'll charge you for that is you have to make sure whenever someone buys oil from you, they have to buy it in U.S. dollars. So that means anybody who bought Italy, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Africa, Australia, no matter Iceland, if they bought oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to first convert their currency into U.S. dollars, which meant that everybody around the world used the United States dollar as the reserve currency. So everybody trades with dollars. So that keeps our...
Plus, they buy other stuff because while you got the U.S. dollars,
that's
you
right.
might as well get all your stuff.
So they do. That's what I'm saying. They use it for everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the international trade currency.
Yeah.
It's it's the world reserve. So that's going to go away because what we're doing in Ukraine and other places and trying to force an economic hurt on Russia and China is forcing places like Saudi Arabia to abandon the petrodollar idea, which will hurt us a lot. Saudi prince snubbed Biden's request to discuss the oil crisis brought about by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, this is from March 9th of 2022. And then this is what happened. They're getting along. And then this happened. Saudi invites China's President Xi as relations with Washington remain soured. What? Hey, BRICS challenges the U.S. dollar dominance. Saudi considers selling oil in other currencies, new multipolar economic order. So this is the kind of crazy stuff people thought Trump would do. And of course, it's being done by Joe Biden and the Wall Street fossil fuel puppets. So Trump didn't do this. Trump isn't wrecking everything, didn't wreck everything for the United States. It's Joe Biden and the Democrats that are doing this, and the deep state. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it right out in the open, and no one seems to care. By the way, this photo explains more about the Ukraine war than 1 million Ukraine flag tweets combined. Right? So there's the president of Brazil, president of Russia, president of China. I don't know who this is. Let's see. I don't know who that is either. But those, so
South Africa?
It's called BRICS. The international economic system had been dominated for decades by the United States. But this financial architecture is rapidly fracturing with the creation of new institutions in the global South. The BRICS bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is working to develop a fairer system of monetary exchange to challenge the dominance of the U.S. dollar. Saudi Arabia publicly confirmed that it is considering selling its oil in other currencies. China's President Xi Jinping said Beijing will buy energy from the Persian Gulf states in its own currency, the renminbi.
Renminbi?
You know what? I looked it up 4 times today on how to say it. I thought I memorized it, and I didn't.
I thought they had the won or the yuan.
No, that is so. Renminbi, whatever that word is, that's what they're called. A yuan is like a denomination of their money.
Oh,
right.
It's called renminbi.
That's their monetary. That's their money is called that. And then the yuan, which is spelled Y-U-A-N, that's like a denomination of their money, right? So that's like a pound,
okay.
Right? Prominent economist Zoltan Pozar of the Swiss investment bank Credit Suisse has observed that the unipolar era of U.S. hegemony is quickly being replaced with a new multipolar order of one world, two systems. China is proactively writing a fresh set of rules and creating a new type of globalization, Posner wrote, describing how this transition threatens the exorbitant privilege that the dollar holds as the international reserve currency. South Africa's foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, told Russia's state media outlet Sputnik that the BRICS bloc is working to develop a fairer system of monetary exchange to weaken the dominance of the dollar. Pandor's comments were ignored by Western media outlets, but widely reported in the Indian press. Of course, nobody talks about this in the corporate media because they don't want you to talk about it, because they don't want you to know what the petrodollar is, because they don't want you sniffing it out, that's why we're doing warmongering in Yemen and helping commit a genocide and all the other stuff we're doing.
They better not threaten our exorbitant privilege.
They better not. The systems currently in place tend to privilege very wealthy countries and tend to be really a challenge for countries such as ourselves, which have to make payments in dollars, which cost much more in terms of our various currencies, Pandor continued. So I do think a fairer system has to be developed, and it's something we're discussing with the BRICS ministers and the economic sectors discussed. The South African foreign minister also criticized the United States' imposition of unilateral sanctions, which are illegal under international law. She told Sputnik, "We always have a problem with unilateral sanctions and their impact on many countries that fall outside a particular conflict, so we have indicated to our friends in the United States that we really want them to relook at this imposition of unilateral sanctions, which is often not very helpful as a strategy in resolving problems." The world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, has publicly acknowledged that it is considering selling its crude in other currencies, not just the U.S. dollar. That is the end of it for the United States. That's going to be the end of our 1,000 military bases across the world. We're going to go bankrupt as a country.
Not if we go to war.
We already kind of are, but we will actually have to. We don't have to feel the repercussions of that now because of the petrodollar. But when that goes away, we are going to feel it. Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jaddan told Bloomberg TV, "There are no issues with discussing how we settle our trade arrangements, whether it is in the U.S. dollar, whether it is in the euro, whether it's in the Saudi riyal." In 1974, this is it, Saudi Arabia agreed to sell its crude at the dollar, blah, 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 blah. The petrodollar system helped undergird the status of the greenback as the global reserve currency after U.S. President Richard Nixon extended the convertibility of the dollar to gold in 1971. But the petrodollar now has direct challengers. The Wall Street Journal reported in March 2022 that Saudi Arabia was in active talks with Beijing to produce, we already said this. Blah, 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 blah. China is already Saudi Arabia's top trading partner, and Beijing, Riyadh, and the GCC pledged to deepen their multilateral trade. These historic developments in the BRICS and Saudi Arabia are part of an international shift to a multipolar. Yeah, so we know all this. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. We got all this. We did it. We already did it. How many times do you want me to fucking say this?
Renminbi.
So there it is. Bloomberg is reporting it. The power of BRICS will go ahead with the joint, South Africa will go ahead with the joint naval exercises, including Russia and China. Operation Mosey, smoke, will take place from February 17th to the 26th. South Africa is set to welcome Russian warships despite every criticism. Joe Biden is fucking up the international United States order. The ambassador of South Africa is Russia Mazvukil Markuta said that who the fuck knows that about 13 countries are interested in joining the BRICS. Makuta added that 6 countries have already submitted formal applications for membership. It's over, and Joe Biden is driving America off the cliff. So this was the stuff you thought Trump was going to do. Joe Biden's doing it. They're wrecking your country. They're spending $100 billion. I said this on stage at the Flappers the other night. I said, if they're sending $100 billion to another country, you know it's because we care about them. I just don't understand why we don't send $100 billion to the United States.
Well, I think you just answered your question.
And the people and the crowd went wild. So regular people are catching on. Not just Jimmy Dore show viewers, regular people.
Not just Dilbert and the...
Wow. Oh, one of my fake fact checkers, you know how the show gets fake fact checked by people funded by Bill Gates and what have you? Mm. One of them was at that show and came up to me and took a picture and then told me who they were. Hey, I have the fact checked you on the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you piece of shit. And I gave you a picture before I knew who the fuck you were. And then I told him, he's like, hey, I thought we were going to be friends. I'm like, you're a piece of shit. Get the fuck away from me. Then my comedian friend, Michael Gilbert, walked up. He goes, who's this? I go, this is a piece of shit, Michael. Don't pay any attention to him. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, Tempe, Arizona, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, and a lot more places. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member while you're there. You get access to all of our stuff. See you then.